The man you saw in that video, Richard Ragland, went on to drown that day, and this GoPro footage actually captured his final moments of life. Before his death, Richard actually served in the National Guard. Everybody remembered him as having the biggest heart and being a very smart guy. However, on June 4th, 2017, a freak accident would cause Richard to drown in the water he was swimming in Georgia. To this day, nobody knows exactly what killed Richard or what forced him under the water, but his friends that were with him that day stated that he went under the water. They tried to help him, but there was no way they could get him back up to the surface. So after his death, Richard's family mourned their loss. But it wasn't until years later when a diver actually recovered that GoPro sitting at the bottom of that water. The diver's name was Rich Abernathy. He has a YouTube channel where he goes into bodies of water and dives. And he was diving in that same water in Tennessee when he came across a GoPro. And when he looked at the contents of that GoPro, the connection was made that this was Richard Ragland, the man who had drowned there only a few years prior. I'm going to play you a little bit more of that video. It is just some really haunting stuff.
Being with brothers and sisters, we live in life. We live in life. We live in life. See, the thing is, one common goal that we all share is the same goal.
If you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast Murder in America that I co-host with my wife, Courtney. It's available on all streaming platforms.
This is hands down the creepiest story I've heard yet. Danielle Hawkins was a teacher, and she reportedly started to act weird in June of 2012. During summer break, she gathered up a group of her former students and told them to go to the woods with her. She claimed that she chose these students because they needed to rid themselves of demons, and that Saturday night they gathered around a small fire. Danielle informed them that they needed to cut their skin to let out the evil spirits and then burn their skin afterwards to seal the wound so they wouldn't enter back in. One of the students, she held a lighter towards their hand and the wind blew out the flame. For some reason this freaked her out and she dosed his hand in perfume and then lit it on fire. Another teen was cut in the neck with a broken bottle, and what's even sadder is none of the kids felt it was safe enough to tell their parents. Police did find out through a mutual friend and then charged Danielle.
This video has been terrifying TikTok for weeks. It shows a group of friends exploring an abandoned drainage tunnel in Seattle, Washington, a city known for having entire underground sections people barely talk about. They were just recording with their phones, laughing, messing around, until someone suddenly noticed that Mason was missing. The tunnel went silent. Then a faint echo came from somewhere deep inside, like someone trying to speak, but too far away. They followed the sound, the camera shaking harder with every step, and then the beam of the phone light landed on him. Mason was sitting in the corner, curled up, completely still. But when the camera got close, he lifted his head, and his eyes were glowing red, staring at the group at a broken, impossible angle. Not human, not alive, just wrong. Until one of them whispered, "Dude, that's not Mason." Not like a person, but like something wearing a person. Everyone screamed. People are still arguing what they saw that night in Seattle. Because if that wasn't Mason, what followed them out of that tunnel?
This is the true, scary story of the Crow family, a terrifying family from the United Kingdom that hurt over 1,000 people. In the 1950s, there was a quiet village in Yorkshire, England, surrounded by thick woods known as Black Hollow Forest. At the edge of the forest stood a rotting wooden cottage. That's where the Crow family lived. 3 strange people no one really understood. People in the village were afraid of them. They spoke in whispers and said the family was cursed. One night, a group of villagers decided to stop the curse. They burned the cottage while the family was inside. But the Crow family survived. Badly burned and full of hate, they vanished into the forest. That's when people started disappearing. Hikers, backpackers, even locals walking their dogs, gone without a trace. They said they heard laughter in the woods. People say that Crow family is now hunting people.
This family started to believe their dog might be a skinwalker. At first, it was just small things, odd movements, a blank stare, a low growl for no reason. But then it got really unsettling. They noticed she was standing and moving on 2 legs more and more, almost like a person. The other dogs were terrified of her and would run away. One day, when they got home, they saw her sitting on the front steps in a completely unnatural, almost human pose. The second they got closer, she dropped back down onto all 4s like nothing had happened. The family decided to test her using something they found online. They poured a circle of salt around her. If she stepped out, everything was fine. But if she stayed inside, it meant she was a skinwalker. The scariest part? She didn't move at all. She just sat there, perfectly still. Then the owner asked, "Are you a skinwalker?" And at that exact moment, a strange sound came out of her mouth. Something that didn't sound like a dog at all. After that, they took her deep into the woods. They knew that when a skinwalker sheds its skin, it becomes extremely dangerous. And that meant the real horror was way closer than they ever thought.
Stinky little baby, you need a shower. Stinky little baby, you smell real sour.
This video has been terrifying TikTok for weeks. It shows a group of friends exploring an abandoned drainage tunnel in Seattle, Washington, a city known for having entire underground sections people barely talk about. They were just recording with their phones, laughing, messing around, until someone suddenly noticed that Mason was missing. The tunnel went silent. Then a faint echo came from somewhere deep inside, like someone trying to speak, but too far away. They followed the sound, the camera shaking harder with every step, and then the beam of the phone light landed on him. Mason was sitting in the corner, curled up, completely still. But when the camera got close, he lifted his head, and his eyes were glowing red, staring at the group at a broken, impossible angle. Not human, not alive, just wrong. Until one of them whispered, "Dude, that's not Mason." Not like a person, but like something wearing a person. Everyone screamed. People are still arguing what they saw that night in Seattle. Because if that wasn't Mason, what followed them out of that tunnel?
So check this crazy ass loophole I just went through. I nutted in the condom. Put water in the condom. Okay? Then, you want to take it a step further? Put the condom over a light. At that point, you're going to see a homemade lava lamp. Not gabbing though.
This is the first horror story I have ever told on this app to do with Satanists. Make sure to save the video if you have the guts to watch it at 3 a.m. and make sure to share it as well to scare someone else. In a small village in a country called Kosovo, 70 years ago, the rules around the country were very different to how they would be now. The males of the house, they would go out to fight, they would go out to hunt, and they would also go out to basically do the manual labor and work. Whereas the women, they would stay at home. They would cook, they would clean. However, there was a task that little girls were given, and that was to go look after the cows while they grazed. Now, the village was situated so that there was a forest surrounding the village, and a big city was quite far from the village itself. But anyways, the story starts like this. A little girl of around 12 years old. One day, she's appointed to go actually watch over the cows. And so she takes the cattle and she takes them to their regular spot. She watches over them as she normally would for a good few hours. But the night before, she had got minimal sleep, and hence she was extremely tired. She actually ended up dozing off. When she woke up, she realized it had been a few hours, as the sun was now very close to setting. But that's not what the issue was. The issue was the fact the cows were missing. Now she of course started to panic, as the punishment for losing these cows would be quite severe. And so the girl, she gets up and she starts looking around the field in which they were. However, she cannot find anything. And so what she decides to do, she decides to look further. And this included the forest. As the sun was about to set, it would be dark very soon. She had very little time. She decides to take a bold stance and she actually enters the forest. As she starts pushing through the thick leaves, she realizes the cows could have gone in any direction. And now she realizes something else. The deeper she gets into the forest, the more the floor becomes dangerous. There are animals and insects slithering and crawling literally beneath her feet. And now the sun has officially set. What she decides to do is she decides to climb the highest tree that she can find. She finds the tallest tree that she can and she ends up climbing it. Once she gets to the top, she stays there for a few minutes, catching her breath, really taking in what she's done. Now, of course, since she's in a forest, there was no light whatsoever. Until there was. Since she was in one of the tallest trees in the forest, she could actually see a clearing quite close by. Spontaneously, she sees a fire erupt from the center of the actual clearing. And almost instantly, her eyes adjust to what looks like 7 hooded figures standing around this fire, all in blacked out clothing. One of these 7 figures seems to be a woman. She is actually taller than the rest of them. At first, the 7 figures, they stand around the actual fire doing completely nothing, until this taller woman raises her hands to the fire, and the fire erupts. As it rises up, the girl is absolutely petrified. But she's also curious, because something else has just caught her eye. Around the circle of fire, there are symbols etched into the grass, made from what looks like either ash or dirt. A moment later, she starts hearing murmuring, and a chant starts within the circle. The chanting seems to get louder, and as it does so, the fire seems to be erupting and angrily moving more. Now the girl is completely petrified, but there's nothing she can do. This carries on for literal hours. Now she didn't think it could get any worse. But almost instantly, as soon as the thought entered her mind, the hooded figures started circling around the fire. Moving it now is unmistakably a ritual. After hours and hours, the girl finally hears a different sound, and that is the squawk of the rooster in the morning. The hooded figures reacted almost instantly. The tall lady moves her hands in a downwards motion, and the fire stops. The hooded figures and the tall woman, they disperse. The girl finally climbs down the tree. She sprints back home. But yeah, anyways guys, that's the story. Make sure to follow the account if you want more videos like this. And yeah, man.
Oh yeah, one more thing. If y'all see me on Love Island, mind your fucking business, bitch. I'm trying to find love, bitch. Y'all had y'all motherfucking chance.
What the? Hey, do you need something? Hello?
I've been advised not to tell this story by practically everyone in my life. I've been specifically warned by my management that this could lead to a defamation case. As somebody who promised you to always be upfront, I'm going to tell you anyway. It's not going to make sense until the end, and I will try my best to put it into one video. Growing up, I had one best friend. We were obsessed with each other. So when I moved to school, we were devastated that we weren't going to see each other every single day. And we would speak to each other every night for so long that eventually our mums used each other's numbers as like the free numbers that you used to get. You know, like back in the 90s, you had like that one number you could do 3 calls. Normally this number would be reserved for like your nan or like your mum's best mate. We were so close that we even manipulated a plan so that I would move close to her. We spent all summer circling houses for sale in the newspaper, and we kept putting them in front of our mums and dads until eventually my mum and dad actually bought one of the houses that we had circled, which meant we were on the same road. And as soon as we were old enough and the opportunity arose, we moved in together. By this point, we're basically adults. We have our own groups of friends. And one friend that she had, I never particularly liked. There was something about her, I couldn't put my finger on it, but I didn't trust her. But you've met Helen already now, so you know that my mum raised me to be kind. So I took this friend in as my friend. So my best friend, we'll call her Lissa, is one of those girls that if you're ever in trouble, she's going to be there for you. And her friend, the one that I don't trust, we'll call her Karen, is that friend that always has the drama. She always needs rescuing. Wherever she goes, drama follows her, chases her, like a bounty hunter. It's like no matter what she does, she just can't catch a break. But throughout our year living together, this girl turns up on our doorstep crying almost at least once a month. Karen's mum and dad have a lot of money, whereas mine and Lissa's are just normal people. Karen has a good job in her family business, so it doesn't go unnoticed by me when she would turn up at our house empty-handed, eat our food, watch our TV, drink our drinks, make a mess, and then just leave. And I'm not trying to be an ungracious host, but this girl was take in every sense of the word. She was like an emotional vampire to my friend. And it got to the point that when she would come round, I would make an excuse and leave. It's a dark night. We're not expecting anybody. There's a knock at the door. It's Karen. She's in floods of tears. She's done something very stupid. And you know what? Despite everything that this girl has done to me, I'm never going to say exactly what she did. But I will say, never in a million years would I do that. I would never do what she had done, and I especially would not go running to my friend for sympathy or help or shelter, because she didn't deserve it. But my friend invited her in, gave her a place to stay, and made her dinner. Off I went to work, and at the time I was working at a nightclub. I was a door girl. It was freezing. But I didn't care, because I'd rather be standing in the freezing cold on the door than listening to that shit. And my night would go from bad to worse. It was actually a night I'll never forget, because the club that I worked at would actually have a serious incident that night. Someone would get bottled so close to me that I would end up with blood on my clothes, and I'd have to write a police statement. And all I wanted to do when I got home was have a shower, eat my dinner, and go to sleep. Do you think I could do that? No, I couldn't do that because Karen had eaten my dinner. That bitch had eaten my dinner. I had £20 to my name. Boyfriend had ordered me a Domino's and she had eaten it. She didn't even leave the crusts. So in the morning, when my boyfriend texted me and asked if I got the Domino's that he'd left me and he had paid for, because God knows Domino's is very expensive and I wouldn't have been able to afford it myself, it was a special treat, and I told him no and explained why, he was furious. Absolutely furious. And I should have heeded his warning. She's got no manners. She's not been raised properly. You need to watch her. And he was bang on the money. Fast forward to when I was opening up my own makeup business. I get a text message from this girl. She was thinking of doing makeup herself and she wanted some tips. I gave them. I didn't listen to my boyfriend's advice and I gave them to her. I even said she could come and shadow me if she wanted. I would accidentally fall pregnant. Best accident that ever happened. But not everything in my pregnancy went to plan. I would actually have something called HG, extreme sickness in pregnancy. And it would actually mean that I would end up in hospital a lot of my pregnancy, which being self-employed isn't the best thing. I didn't have sick pay. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have statutory. I had nothing apart from a loyal client base. And if it wasn't for these clients, I would probably never know about what this girl did to me. Because while I was here, strapped up to all different types of stuff, she was busy messaging my clients, offering them 20% off. Yeah, 20% off if I cancelled on them. She was profiting off of my misfortune behind my back. Whilst I was laying in a hospital bed with a face full of broken blood vessels, because by the way that happens, when you throw up for 12 hours straight every day, you walk around with broken blood vessels. This is how that looks. All over your face. The problem that I have with this is that there are only a few people in the world that knew that I was in hospital. And there were only a few people in the world that knew why I was in hospital and that it would be an ongoing thing. You guessed it. It was my best friend. And her best friend. She carried on. She took every last gig I had whilst I laid in a hospital bed. And I had no fight left in me. So all I wanted was a healthy baby. And I didn't really give a shit if I had to have a buggy from a charity shop. And I didn't really give a shit if I had to live in my mum's garage forever. But she did make it hard for me. Now, luckily for her, I'm a positive person. And instead of getting mad and playing messy, I started doing different things, like lashes, which meant we were no longer in competition. I pretty much stepped back, just for an easy life, and let her shine. This girl would go on to do very well. Very, very well. And she actually went on to become one of the biggest makeup artists in the UK, Instagram-wise. The problem is, when you do business like that, you piss off a lot of people along the way, and some of them aren't quite as gracious as I was, or as scared. I was scared, but I'm not anymore. Who would have known that I would now have this platform? And who would have known that someone you pissed off along the way, who has millions of followers, would want to do business with me? Couldn't make it up, could you? Anyway, I've got to go now because I'm waiting for a call from LA.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, you?
I'm doing all right.
I was 9 years old when this happened. For whatever reason, I was home alone one night, so I was playing video games upstairs in my room. I wasn't allowed to answer the door to anyone when I was home alone. Whenever I was left alone, it wasn't for long. My mom would just be out grocery shopping or something like that. I was playing Metroid Prime on my GameCube. I used to be obsessed with that game. I heard the house phone downstairs start to ring. My mom always told me to pick up the phone if it rang, in case it was her calling. So I hurried downstairs, and by maybe the fourth ring, I picked up. The caller ID was from my mom's cell phone. She said, "Sweetie, can you come outside and help with the groceries?" I replied, "Mom?" She said back, "Yes." I felt like something sounded off with her voice. You obviously know your own mom's voice, and so even at such a young age, when I was questioning why it didn't sound like her, I said, "Why do you sound like that?" She replied, "Like what, sweetie?" And I hung up. My mom would never use the word sweetie like that, especially twice in a matter of seconds. The phone rang again, and my mom's number came up on the caller ID again. I ignored it. For some reason, my heart was racing. I was nervous. I sat in the kitchen, waiting to see if the phone would ring a third time, and it did. It took a couple minutes before the third ringing, but when I checked the caller ID, this time it was a different number. I picked up, and a man's voice on the other end said, "Hey James, I know this is gonna sound weird, but it's your dad. I'm outside." All I could mutter out was a weak, "What?" The man said, "I'm outside. I have a lot to explain." I hung up right then and there. My dad died when I was 3. I have no memories of him. My suspicion was in fact true that the first voice I heard was not my mom's. The phone rang again, and then again after that. I ignored it each time. I couldn't even call my mom because someone clearly had her phone. Then things took a turn for the worse when there were knocks at the front door. This went from a "someone has my mom's phone" situation to a "someone is outside the house" situation. My mom would not be knocking on the door. She'd have a key, obviously. I peered around the wall of the kitchen to look at the front door. I heard a man's muffled voice on the other side saying my name. He was saying, "It's your dad." He rang the doorbell, and then I heard him start attempting to open the door. I did something that no 9-year-old should ever have to do, and that was grabbing the phone and calling 911. The 911 operator asked me what I imagined to be some pretty standard questions, most importantly telling me to wait in a bathroom or other room with a lockable door until the police get there. The bathroom is on the first floor of the house. I hid in there with the lights off. Whoever was outside came to the window and tried pulling it open. I heard their entire struggle. Then they must have moved to the next window. I think they tried every window and door in the house. If anything were to have been unlocked, this story would have had a very different outcome. They must have given up at some point before the police arrived. And I say they because clearly there were 2 people involved in this, a man and a woman. They both could have been out there for all I know. The operator told me that the police are at the front door now and it's safe to go meet them there. Only when I opened the door to the police was when I hung up the phone. They did a quick investigation inside and outside of the house and asked me where my mom was supposed to be and if my mom knew anyone who might want to hurt us. I'm sure I said I thought she was grocery shopping or something, and not that I know of. My mom returned home with my little sister in a panic when she saw the police cars out front. My mom's phone was stolen, which was already clear. I'm sure that our address, home phone number, and other personal information was stored somewhere on the phone, easily accessible, though how they knew my name, I'm not exactly sure. Something on my mom's phone must have given it away. It was an old Nokia flip phone. Who stole it was a mystery. But my mom's phone background was a picture of her with my little sister and I. This could have been an indication to some disgusting, creepy couple out there that the owner of this phone was a single mom with 2 young kids, and they tried to use that as a way of tricking me into leaving the house, which is absolutely disgusting and horrific.
Oh mein Gott. Das ist verrückt. Das ist verrückt. Krank. Ich weiß gar nicht, wie ich anfangen soll. Schaut mal meine Haare, die stehen, jetzt sogar die haben Gänsehaut. Ey, yo, haltet euch bitte fest. Ich sag jetzt mit Absicht das Land nicht, aber ihr wisst, welches Land ich meine. Die laden Mädels ein, die Only for You machen, ne? Oder sich als Model betiteln oder was weiß ich. Fliegen, gehen rüber in das Land, ne? Gehen dann in solche Räume, ja? Wo dann mehrere Männer sind. Nicht nur Männer, anscheinend sogar Kamele oder andere Tiere. Und lassen sich ankacken. Von jedem. Und noch ganz andere schlimme Sachen. Das dann halt für 30.000 bis 60.000. Dieses Mädel war anscheinend einer dieser Opfer. Sie wurde vermisst gemeldet für ein paar Tage. Sie wurde dann nach 7, 8 Tagen aufgefunden, irgendwo an einem Strand. Mit Knochenbrüchen sein Vater. Arm gebrochen, Bein gebrochen, Wirbelsäule gebrochen und was weiß ich in der Reihen. Ich habe mich die ganze Zeit gefragt, warum gehen diese ganzen Mädels nach in diesem Land. Und es gab sogar Aufnahmen, so wo ein Kind im Hintergrund geschrien hat. Das waren so Minderjährige auf jeden Fall. Und bevor jetzt alle schreibt, ja, Islam, nein. Diese Menschen haben lange nichts mehr mit dem Islam zu tun, vor allem dieses Land. Aber was denkt ihr darüber? Folgt mir für mehr Videos.
In Haiti, when it hits a certain time, you cannot be outside. Scary story time. So, I just woke up from a nap, so don't mind the whole flushed look. And y'all know I love doing these stories while unboxing something, and this is a wig from Amazon. Anyways, this story is actually my dad's story. He told me this story last night, y'all. When I tell y'all I've been fishing for stories for y'all. Anyways, so in Haiti, you know at a certain time, like 8 o'clock, you ain't supposed to be outside. Past 8 o'clock, when it's dark, that's luau time. You know to be home. Because the luaus are outside waiting for somebody to be called lacking. Anyways, he was really young at the time, right? And, his aunt had just got this brand new TV. And mind you, this is like back in the day. So TVs were kind of like fairly a new thing. So him and my uncle begged my grandma to let them go to my aunt's house, well, their aunt's house, my aunt's house, to watch some TV. So my grandma said, fine, you guys can go, but make sure you guys come back on time. Like, don't. So, full disclaimer for the future stories that I'm going to tell you. My dad, I don't want to say he was the bad child, but my uncle was the good child that followed by all the rules. My dad also was a good child, but he was more of like a adventurous person. For example, when my uncle would probably walk away from a fight, my dad wouldn't. You get the gist. So anyways, they go to my uncle's house. They go at 5 o'clock, and my grandma told them to come back in an hour. They go, they're watching TV. At this time, it's about like 6:30, almost 7. So my uncle realizes the time. Of course, he's the responsible one. He's like, let's go home. It's getting late. It's about to be dark outside. So let's go home. My dad's like, yeah, 5 more minutes. Give me 5 more minutes. Let me finish watching this. 5 more minutes. So my uncle's like, all right, 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes pass. And my uncle's like, it's been 5 more minutes. We have to go. We're going to get in trouble. Also, full disclaimer, my grandma did not play with these boys, okay? She was a single parent raising 2 boys by herself. She did not play. Anyway, so my uncle's like, it's time to go. Like, let's go. And my dad is like, yeah, but this isn't finished. You go. I'm right behind you. I promise you, I'm right behind you. You go. Go ahead, go. And my uncle's like, no, I'm not leaving you. Like, no, let's go. And my dad is like, no, bro, just give me I got you. I promise you, I got you. I'm right behind you. Just go. I'm coming. Mind you, it's already late enough that my uncle don't even want to be walking the streets by himself. So he's like, all right, whatever. So he goes. And he like books it. He's running the whole way home because it's already dark. Like, it just got dark. It's already dark and he's already scared. He don't want to get caught by nothing. You get it. If you get it, you get it. So he books it home. He makes it home. And my dad is still watching TV. And at this point, 2 hours pass. Now, this is definitely Lugao time. And then some more time passes. And then my dad just happens to take his eye off the TV. This is nice. It's a bob wig. He happens to take his eyes off the TV just to look around, and everybody else, his cousins, are sleeping. And then he looks up at the clock. It is 10 p.m., y'all. And if you know in Haiti, 10 p.m. for you to be walking the streets is insane. So the realization starts to hit him. And at this point, he was more scared of the ass whooping he was going to get more than the fact that he has to walk through the streets at night with all these lugaus walking around. So he books it. He's running home. And he told me at this point, in my mind, I don't care about nothing that's going on in the street. I'm scared about this ass whooping. And if anything happens to come my way, I swear it won't stop me from getting home. He's booking it home. And as he's like literally close, like around the corner from the house, he sees this chicken with all her chicks walking. Mind you, he's a little boy. He don't really he knows weird stuff be happening, but he doesn't really know exactly what to expect. He sees these chicken, so he's like, okay, chicken, I'm home. My house is right there. I don't really care about that right now. So as he's trying to go to his house, the chicken gets in front of him to block him. So he's like, okay, so he tries to go around and they get in front of him again to block him. And then he tries to go another way, like around them again, and they get in front of him again to block him. Now, remember how I told y'all, my father, he had a little bit of a temper, and he already imagines this ass whooping he's about to get, so he don't care about no chickens right now. So he kicks all the chickens, he kicks all of the chicks out of his way and ran into the house. And my uncle, being the good wingman that he was, he left the door open for my dad because, he was supposed to be right behind him. Now, to my dad's luck, he gets home and my uncle's sleeping and so is my grandma. So he's off the hook. He was telling me the story. He's like, I'm so happy because I'm off the hook. But little did I know, my problems had just started.